A new annual tradition will start at the end of 2018. On New Year's Day 2019, hundreds of thousands of movies, books, paintings, drawings, and musical scores will be stripped of their copyright and enter the public domain. For decades, American copyright laws have kept intellectual property, or IP, from 1923 under copyright laws, but starting in 2019, all works created in 1923 will convert from copyright protected to copyright free. The next year, on January 1st, 2020, the tradition will continue with IP from 1924, and so on year after year. Online companies are also taking notice, and Google Books is going to be releasing all books that it has from 1923 for free online. When materials are copyright free and enter the public domain, that means you or anyone can do whatever you want with the material. For example, you can legally make copies of movies that are in the public domain and give them away. You can sell them, remix them. You could even add porn scenes to them and sell them, but please don't do that because it would be super weird. You can pretty much do anything you want with no restrictions. And in the video today, we're looking at 10 classic works that are about to enter the public domain in just a few months. Number 10. Harold Lloyd's Safety Last. The 1923 movie Safety Last contains one of the most iconic scenes in silent film history, where actor Harold Lloyd desperately clings to the hands of a large clock on the side of a skyscraper. Roger Ebert called it the most famous scene in silent comedy. Back then, film safety was pretty much non-existent, and a few years earlier, in 1919, Lloyd had actually lost a thumb and a forefinger doing promotional work for another film, Haunted Spooks. His performance in Safety Last and the movie's box office numbers cemented his place as an A-list leading man. In honor of its lasting influence and cultural importance, the Library of Congress added Safety Last to its National Film Registry in 1994. On January 1st, 2019, it will be stripped of its copyrighted status and enter the public domain, where you can do anything you want with the film. Number 9. Helly Say by Robert Delaunay. Robert Delaunay and his wife Sonia Delaunay were some of the founders of the Orphism art movement, an offshoot of Cubism of Pablo Picasso fame. Respected art critic Guillaume Apollinaire thought that art should be like music and that Orphism with its colors and shapes reflected that. At 38 years old in 1923, Robert Delaunay painted an Orphism masterpiece when he created Hélice. Today, the original canvas is displayed in the German Wilhelm Hack Museum, and on January 1st, 2019, it'll be public domain, so you can print it and use it however you want. Number 8. The Charleston Jazz Song. The Charleston is the jazz song that, as you can probably guess, helped spark the Charleston dance craze. The lyrics were written by Cecil Mack and the musical score was done by Jimmy Johnson. When the song was released in 1923, conservative groups were outraged, with Reverend E.W. Walters, vicar of St. Aidan's in Bristol, saying, "Any lover of the beautiful will die rather than be associated with the Charleston. It is neurotic. It is rotten. It stinks. Phew. Open the windows." Popular culture did not listen to Reverend Walters, though, and the song and the dance are legendary in America as well as around the world. Whenever the Roaring Twenties are brought up in movies or TV, you can count on hearing the Charleston. Number 7. The Ten Commandments. Considered one of the founding fathers of American cinema, Cecil DeMille made over 70 films before dying of heart failure in 1959. His films span every genre, and over his career he created both silent movies and talkies, or movies that had a soundtrack. He started acting in and producing plays, but entered the world of movies with his first film, The Squawman, in 1914. As an interesting side note, the short film In Old California was actually the first motion picture shot in Hollywood. The Squawman was a huge success and cemented Hollywood as the center of movie production, though. In 1923, though, DeMille started work on an epic biblical story called The Ten Commandments. The movie stunned Hollywood insiders when DeMille became the first producer to spend $1 million on a film. He claims the backers actually fired him due to the cost overruns, but were forced to hire him back as he was the only man who could finish the production. When the movie was released in 1923, it smashed box office records and was Paramount's highest-grossing film for 25 years. The period drama featured huge life-size sets of ancient Egypt. The set was left open to the elements and was buried under the shifting sands of California's Guadalupe-Nipomo Dunes, the largest remaining dune system south of San Francisco. In 2012, archaeologists uncovered the forgotten Egyptian ruins created for the film and unearthed several monuments, including one of the 12-foot tall, 5-ton sphinxes that were used in the movie. Number 6. Several works of Kandinsky. Russian painter and art theorist Vasily Kandinsky is considered one of the founders of abstract art, and for decades was considered to have created the first purely abstract painting. His 1923 Tension series paintings included Zartspannung, delicate tension, and were painted while he was at the Bauhaus, Berlin, a German art school. After they were finished, the paintings were in a museum until 1937, when it was shut down under Hitler's crackdown on art. The paintings and their owner, Baroness Hélice, daughter of a Prussian general, then moved to America, where she became one of the founding members of New York's Guggenheim Art Museum. After the Nazis closed Berlin's Bauhaus Art School in 1933, Kandinsky moved to France, where he painted until he died from complications of cerebrovascular disease in Neuilly-sur-Seine in France on December 13, 1944. Number 5. Chaplin's The Pilgrim. Charlie Chaplin had been doing film since 1914 and almost from the beginning played his iconic character, the tramp. His movies attracted huge numbers and gave him fame and fortune. In 1919, he co-founded United Artists as a means to give him control over film production. The Pilgrim was released on February the 26th, 1923. The 46-minute movie was his second shortest feature. Jeffrey Vance, in his 2003 book, Chaplin, Genius of the Cinema, says that The Pilgrim is one of Chaplin's richest and most neglected films. In 1959, Chaplin released The Pilgrim, 1923, along with A Dog's Life, 1918, and Shoulder Arms, 1918, as a trilogy called The Chaplin Review, in hopes of being able to reboot the tramp character. Number 4. Poem, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Robert Frost is an iconic American poet who tallied 4 Pulitzer Prizes for his work. New Hampshire in 1924, Collected Poems in 1931, A Further Range in 1937, and A Witness Tree in 1943. His work inspires many, and these poems are a trusted foundation for eulogy speeches. His piece, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, is no exception and has been used to honor the dead, including during the funeral for the assassinated President John F. Kennedy. Current Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau also honored his father, former Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, when he used an altered line of the poem during his father's funeral. Studied by students around the world, Frost's poetry is carefully monitored by the Frost estate, and when his prose is used without permission, cease and desist lawsuits are quick to fly. Famed composer Eric Whitacre found this out the hard way when he completed a commissioned piece for the funeral of the parents of a woman named Julia Armstrong. Listeners at the funeral were enamored with the piece, and soon Whitacre was swamped by requests from conductors to get the musical score. Around the same time, Frost's estate caught wind of the score and its use of the poem, and in a flurry of lawsuits, they shut it down. This all ends when Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening enters the public domain. It was actually set to enter the public domain in 1998, 75 years after first publication, but on October the 27th, 1998, Congress passed the Sonny Bono Copyright Term Extension Act, which extended the copyright term to 95 years, which makes the poem enter the public domain on January the 1st, 2019. Number 3. Still Life with a Cat. George Scrimp is seen as the main founder of the art trend New Objectivity. After World War I, he also participated in the Bavarian Soviet Republic before it was crushed by the remnants of the Imperial German Army. As Hitler tightened the screws of Nazi power, Scrimp was fired from his university in 1937, and his work was banned as degenerate art because he was involved in the Bavarian Soviet and deemed a communist. On April the 19th, 1938, he died at the age of 49. In 1923, he painted Still Life with Cat. Germany released a commemorative stamp of the image on January the 12th, 1955, but the original painting is at the Staatsgalerie Moderne Kunstmuseum. 1995 was the last year that the German Federal Post Office existed and appeared on stamps. That year, it was dissolved during a government privatization push. Number 2. Bambi by Felix Salten. Felix Salten published Bambi, A Life in the Woods in 1923. His target audience was adults, and it was first publicized as a serial in Austria. The story was hugely popular and caught the eye of Max Schuster, co-founder of the now giant publishing company Simon & Schuster. He got the book translated, allowing the English world to follow the transformation of Bambi from a weak and powerless fawn into the mighty stag and great prince of the forest. Ohio State University professor Paul Reiter contends that Salten, a Jew that faced discrimination in Austria, wrote the story as a metaphor for the Jewish existence in Europe, arguing, could the deer living in the forest ever trust that human hunters would let them live in peace? That echoes a haunting question for Jews and anti-Semitism in 1920s Europe. From 1933, efforts were made to animate the story, but the technical limitations of animation at the time prevented the film being made. That was until Walt Disney was able to overcome all obstacles and in 1939 started making the now iconic cartoon, eventually spending 3 years on the project before releasing the movie in 1942. A loose adaptation of the book, Disney used a loophole in copyright law to try and avoid paying Salten a single dime. Number 1. Felix the Cat cartoons. Almost a decade before the 1928 debut of Mickey Mouse in Steamboat Willie, animator Otto Mesmer and his boss Pat Sullivan were trying to create a marketable character toying with a cartoon black cat. After months of tweaking, 2 films were released: Feline Follies on November 9th, 1919, and on November 16th, 1919, it was Musical Muse, a film that has been lost. But the cat in these films was a prototype dubbed Master Tom. The first film, with the cat named Felix, was The Adventures of Felix, released on December 14th, 1919. It was the first character created solely for the film industry, the first character to reach a high level of fame, and also the first character to be licensed and merchandised, bringing in huge money for Sullivan's animation company. One of the most popular cartoon characters, Felix the Cat, has been beloved by millions for decades. His image has adorned everything from being the oldest recognized mascot in the state of Indiana to the official emblem of the United States Navy Strike Fighter Squadron, VFA-31, the second oldest Navy fighter attack squadron operating today. Come January 1st, 2019, any Felix cartoons released in 1923 or before will be released into the public domain. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up below and don't forget to subscribe. Brand new videos just like this every other week. Also, if you want to watch something right now, got a new channel. Well, sort of new channel. It's newer than this channel. It's been out for a while now. It's called Biographics. Longer form videos of notable people from history as well as the present day. Check it out on the link on the screen now as well as in the description below. And as always, thank you for watching.